Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic and Movie Show. My name is Dijon and today I'm here to give you my review of A Quiet Place 2. This is the sequel to the breakout, thriller slash horror movie, John Krasinski's first directed movie. It came out a couple years ago. I think it was like 2017. It wasn't that long ago, 2017, something like that. And that movie was great. Quiet Place was great. I had a good feeling about it. John Krasinski proved that he really knows how to handle tension. Probably the best use of sound that I've seen in a movie in a very long time. Best use of a sense. Interesting creatures. It was kind of a creature feature slash like survival movie. It was a thriller. And one of the most unique theatrical experiences I've ever had was being in a room full of people who are trying desperately not to breathe, not to make a noise, because they want these characters to survive. Now, John Krasinski is back to direct a sequel. This is the follow-up to that movie. It takes place minutes after the events of the ending. Like, so they're in the basement, they just used the daughter's hearing aid, like the sound that the hearing aid gives off to fuck with these creatures and kill them. And the mom, Emily Blunt shot them with the shotgun. It starts off right from that ending. So it's one of those sequels that's like immediate. It's not like a Terminator or certain other sequels where it's like years later. It's like, no, this is immediately. John Wick style, per se, because that's what happened in John Wick. It was like immediately after. And what I will say is this movie is it lives up to its sequel, to its first movie. There's the saying in Hollywood and a lot of movies, in Hollywood in general, that it's really hard to make a sequel. Most sequels are not better than the original. I've often said even some sequels that may actually be on par with the original. Some movies get held back because they're not the original. Like, I've often said that I don't think, while I love the other John Wick movies, while I love John Wick 1 and 3, I can never quite love it as much as the first one, because the first one not only was the first time me experiencing this character and the style that the directors are throwing down, but there's just no way for me to experience coming into a movie being like, I don't know about this movie, and then being completely blown away because I had no expectations whatsoever of this movie. So it just blew my expectations away, and it added more to it. Same thing with a couple other movies. And when I go into John Wick 2 and 3, I'm like, well, I know what to expect. I'm like, my expectations are high. I know where it is, and they met those expectations. But when my expectations were so low and they blew it off the roof. Same thing with The Quiet Place. My expectations were high, but I did not imagine it would be that great of a movie. So when going into this movie, I'm like, my expectations are high because I love the original. And it met my expectations. It didn't surpass them. It's not quite as great as the first one because I know the world. I know the stick now. I know the sound, how he's going to use the sound. I know how he's going to do a lot of things. So I go into this movie with that pre-knowledge. So it does take a bit of the bite out of the movie. But, this movie does what a great sequel should do. It expanded the world. It actually had a great, what do they call it, an opening where it's kind of a flashback to before. This is the only sequence you see John Krasinski in. It's a flashback to before that they've been, because, they've been in that, little, farm, whatever, for like a year and some change now. I think it said like 475 days. So this is the day one of when it happened, when it went down, and it was a great sequence. Probably one of the best sequences in the movie was that sequence because it was so just out of nowhere. Life is good, and then these aliens come. You get a little bit of tidbits on the aliens too, and where they might have come from. The vibe that you get is that these aliens, is that a small asteroid started crashing around Earth. And on these small little asteroids, these asteroids aren't that big. These asteroids are basically small enough, or these asteroids are big enough that they could carry a being that big, but they're not that big. So the vibe I get is these asteroids are big enough that when they hit Earth, they like blew up like a building or a house or something like that. So it's still damaging, it's still dangerous and deadly, but it's not like world-ending size asteroids. It's like, it's like New York just got peppered with a couple, bombs, which is still bad, but still, it's like World Trade Center level damage to a city, which, like I said, ain't world-ending, but it's still bad. But these asteroids have these little creatures on it. Now, that's not explicitly said in the movie, which I saw some people complaining that the movie don't really get into them. And I'll admit, even after I finished watching the movie, and as much as I like the movie, as much as I enjoyed the movie and think the movie's good, they don't really get into why these creatures are, where they came from. There's just little tidbits in the background. But the best thing this movie does, like I said, is expand the universe. It expands beyond, because the entirety of the first movie basically takes place around their home and that farm and them trying to navigate that. Well, they expand out from the farm to the town, to an island. You meet new characters. You meet characters that they knew before this craziness happened, and that's where it shines greatly. All the characters are back and good except for one particular character. I really only have two main complaints about this movie. One, I thought the son was a bit much. There's a particular scene where he's just like, okay, I'm sorry. He's freaking out so bad that he ends up screwing something completely up, and that was pretty bad. I just distinctly remember being like, how'd you screw this up? You know, like, why'd you do that? And you'll know it when you see it. He does something that's really stupid. And there's a sequence with one of the monsters that makes totally no sense. It involves a boat and a boat floating. In my mind, I was like, how is that even possible? So you're telling me this creature just rode this boat to this location? It didn't make any sense. It was just put there to get the creature where they needed to get it, and it didn't actually make any logical sense. But other than those two hiccups, the movie is acted great. Emily Blunt is great in this. The girl who plays his daughter is great in this. All the cast was great in this. Sound design back at full force. Honestly, any compliment you can give to the first movie, you can give to this movie. Sound design, perfecto. I had a great time with this movie. Great little jump scares. You got to see a bit more of the creatures. This time it's a bit more of a apocalyptic creature feature kind of thing. Less of like this survival thing. Well, I mean, it's still survival, but you know, you get the expanded world and you get the typical things that come with, you know, an apocalyptic level event, which is, you know, fucking some survivors go a little loony and do crazy things. But like I said, overall, I enjoyed this movie. I would give Quiet Place 2 an 8.5. There are some problems with this movie that don't quite, to just stop it from being, I disagree with people who say this movie is better than the original, because like, there are a couple little tidbits in this movie that just don't quite hit that. The three things holding it back for me from being a 9 and for it being better than the original is, one, I know what to expect. I kind of, like, and that's not the movie's fault. I know what to expect. I know what's coming. The only way the movie could have got me is if it did something so vastly different than the original that I could have kind of like looked at it with new eyes. But they don't go too far from what happened in the original. It's a little bit more action. It's a little bit more, there's more people. There's more things going on. But generally speaking, it's just like the original. And the son had some beats in this that were just straight up annoying and just literally, like, he did something really, really stupid that just was like, okay, look, man, you gotta stop being such, you can't be this big of a pussy. Like you're about to get people killed because you're that big of a pussy. And really, it just kind of was like, okay, you're dragging this down for me every time you're on screen. And like I said, there's a logical, something that doesn't make a lick of sense with one of the fucking monsters showing up in a location. The way it showed up, the way it got there, it was friggin' stupid and didn't make any sense and was completely just there to get them there. They couldn't come up with a clever reason to get the monster on this place, so they just did some stupid thing. But overall, I give the movie an 8.5. I rather enjoyed A Quiet Place 2. It's definitely one of the best movies I have seen this year. So thank you guys for coming to the Copy Game Movie Show. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.